Hi, I'm Kelly, and this is the owner's class for the Singer Legacy C440 sewing machine. Today we're going to go through a couple of the basic things to get you started sewing, like how to thread your machine and how to select a stitch. Included in your box is the instruction manual and this really handy quick start guide. Both of these will prove to be a great reference for you in the future, so want to hang on to those. Now let's take a quick look at your machine. To the right of your machine are two ports. One is for your power cord and the other is for your foot control. This is also where you'll find the power switch. Now we can lift up the lid, and this is where you'll thread your machine and wind a bobbin. We'll get to more of that in a minute. But also you'll note underneath your lid, this shows all of the 200 stitches that come on your machine. And they each are separated by categories, like your decorative stitches, satin stitches, quilt stitches, and more. On the front of your machine is your LCD screen and your direct stitch selection buttons, and we'll go into more detail on those later. To the left of your machine are your operational buttons. The top button here is your tack off button, and that's also to tie off stitches. This is your needle up down button for when you want to pivot your fabric while you're quilting or doing applique. These two buttons are your speed control buttons. Tortoise and the hare. Tortoise to go slower, the hare to go faster. My favorite button is our thread cutter button. This is your reverse button. And finally, this is your start-stop button when you want to sew without using your foot control. Under here is your presser foot lifter. This raises and lowers your presser foot. Whenever we're threading, we want to keep this in the up position. And then whenever we go to sew, we'll lower it. Also under here is your automatic needle threader, which threads your thread through the eye of your needle. This is the removable storage compartment. So when we take this off, this shows you your free arm. And this is great for when you want to hem a pair of pants or sew the cuff on your shirt, because your fabric can move underneath. And at the end of your storage compartment, there's a small lever here that if you squeeze it, a drawer will open. And inside here are all of the accessories included with your machine, like some extra needles, your spool cap, some bobbins, a brush to keep your machine clean, and then a bunch of accessory feet that are included, which we're going to take a look at now. The satin stitch foot is used for decorative machine stitching. It has a groove on the underside that lets your decorative stitches pass freely underneath. It's great for applique too. The overcasting foot is designed for sewing along fabric edges to help keep the edge from puckering while you sew. Use the blind hem foot to sew hems that are invisible from the top side of the fabric. There's an adjustable guide at the front to help you easily guide the fabric as you sew. The zipper foot is used for sewing zippers into your projects. You can also use this foot to make and insert piping. Use the buttonhole foot to sew buttonholes in one easy step. The machine sews a buttonhole perfectly sized for your button. You'll get professional looking results every time. The patchwork foot is used for sewing perfect 1/4 inch seams. Though typically used for quilting, it's also useful for sewing projects that have small seam allowances. Sew buttons on your projects with the button sewing foot. Your button is held firmly in place as the machine attaches the button to your project with a zigzag stitch. The open toe foot has a wide opening at the front, providing a clear view of your sewing area in front of the needle. This is super helpful when attaching ribbons and trims. Before we get started sewing, we need to thread our machine. So first thing we need to do is wind a bobbin. So we're going to go down here to our bobbin case, and there's a little black button to the right that we're just going to slightly press to the right, which will pop the top off there. And now we'll take out one of our class 15 transparent bobbins that comes with your machine. Just in case you ever need to go buy more for the class 15 transparent bobbins. Next thing we need to do is grab our spool of thread. We're going to lift the lid on our sewing machine and put our spool of thread on the spool pin. And then we'll cover that with our spool cap. We're going to lay our spool of thread down, and then taking your thread, we're going to go under this metal piece right here. So we're going to go all the way down and under, And then you're going to go up and over between the metal piece and the white piece here. The next step is to go to this metal hook right there and go behind that, and then up and around your bobbin winding tension disc. And you'll want to feel a little tension. It'll slide into that disc and you'll feel some tension, which is a good thing. Now we're going to take one of our bobbins and then we're going to take the end of our thread and we're going to go through to the core of the bobbin and up through one of the two holes in your bobbin. Doesn't matter which one. So now we're going to take our bobbin and we're going to put it on top of our bobbin winding spindle at the top of your machine. And you want to make sure that you press that all the way down. I'm going to keep my thread tail about 5 inches above the bobbin. And then I'm going to push over our lever before we start winding our bobbin. And now our screen will show our bobbin winding speed, so we can speed up or we can speed down. Now we can hit the play button and go for just a couple of seconds and then hit pause. I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut our thread really close to the top of our bobbin. And now we can resume winding our bobbin until we get as much thread on there as we need for our project. And then you can pause at any time and undo what you just did by pushing the lever to the left. We can remove our bobbin, and there's a really nice cutter right back there that works great for cutting your bobbin. So now we're going to take our bobbin and we're going to put it into our bobbin case. One thing to note is we need to make sure our thread is going counterclockwise off the bobbin, or if you want to lay it in your hand, it kind of looks like the letter P. So now you're going to take your thread and your bobbin and lay your bobbin down into the bobbin case. And then we're going to follow these arrows all the way around. So we're going to go under and then up, again following the arrows. And then we're going to slide into this next little portion and go up and down. And then we're going to finish by just pulling, and there's a small cutter in there that will cut your thread for you. So the last thing is to take our lid and just snap it back into place. Now we're going to thread our upper thread. First thing we need to do is make sure that our presser foot lifter is in the up position. Next thing we need to do is make sure that our needle is all the way in its highest position, and we do that by moving the hand wheel toward yourself. Now we can take our spool of thread and we can put it on our spool pin here and cover with our cap, and then lay our spool down. And now taking your thread, we're going to go under the metal piece here, and then we're going to follow the arrows around to thread our machine. So we're going to go up, and again follow the arrows over and then down. And now we're going to make a U right here and go back up and make another U, and then come back down through the last groove here. And then when you get to this point, you'll see a hook, a small hook right above your needle. And so we just need to place our thread behind that hook. So now we're going to use the automatic needle threader. We're going to take the lever to the left of your needle and push it all the way down. And then taking your thread, I'm going to go under the metal piece here, and we're going to go right in between the two small grooves there in front of your eye of your needle. And then we're going to just press the lever and let it go back up. And now you'll see it makes a little loop on the back of the needle, so we can just pull that, and now your machine is threaded. And you can take your thread under your foot to the back of your machine. Our machine is threaded, so now we can go ahead and select our stitch. You've got two options on your screen. The top one is a box for our continuous stitches. The bottom box is for our programmable stitches. We're going to go ahead and select the top box. And as you see, your machine automatically defaults to a straight stitch on your screen, which that'll be perfect for when we test to make sure that we've threaded our machine properly. So I've got a couple of pieces of scrap fabric here, and I'm just going to lay that underneath our presser foot, and then we're going to lower our presser foot down over our fabric. And I'm going to take the speed down so that I'm not sewing so fast. And you can do that by using your tortoise or your hair, and I'm going to take it all the way down to the lowest speed. And so now we can start sewing. So our presser foot is down, and now we're just going to press on the foot pedal with your foot, and we can just sew a line through our sample fabric. When we get to the end, we can let off the foot pedal, and then we can hit my favorite button, which is our thread cutter, and then lift up your presser foot, and then we can check our stitches. The top looks good, and the bottom looks good. And I've got a sample over here to show what could go wrong. So the top looks fine, but then our bottom looks a little bit messy. So if you have the bottom of your fabric looking a little messy or loopy like this, you'll want to try to rethread your upper thread. You may think it's the bobbin because it's the bottom, but it's actually your upper thread that needs to be rethreaded through your machine. And you can always refer to your quick start guide or your manual to go through that process again. We've checked our thread and we know that we've threaded our machine properly, so now we can take a couple of sheets of our project fabric and we can move it up underneath our presser foot. And when we do so, you can also see on your stitch plate the various markings. I'm going to use a 5/8 inch for my seam allowance, so I'm going to line my fabric up with the 5/8 inch marking, and then I can lower my presser foot lever, and my presser foot is now down, holding my fabric in place. And then I can depress the foot pedal. And we're going to go a couple of stitches, and then I'm going to hold and depress our reverse button so that it'll go back over the stitches, and it'll secure our stitches so that our project won't come apart. And now we'll just keep sewing our seam. We're going to hold and depress that reverse button again and go back over a few stitches and then finish. And now we can hit our thread cutter and lift our presser foot and check out our seam. Back. Below your screen are 10 direct stitch selection buttons, 0 to 9, and they include your straight stitch, a zigzag, a blind hem. All of these are just the most commonly, most frequently used stitches that are ready at the touch of a button. So let's select our zigzag stitch number 1, and you can see it appear on the screen. And next to that is our stitch width, which we can change to be bigger or smaller. We can also change our stitch length, and again you'll see this change right on screen. There's a mirror left, right, and a mirror up, down button here. So let's use one of our other stitches to show that. And remember, inside your lid we have all of our stitches numbered, so I'm going to use stitch number 82 and just press that in quick succession, and you'll see some roses pop up on my screen. So now if I hit the left right mirror button, you'll see it change on the screen, and then if I hit the up down mirror button, it changes on our screen. Let's sew out another decorative stitch. I'm going to select one of my favorites, which is number 190, which is a vine pattern. And you see it's already popped up on my screen. Also on my screen you'll see that there is a B for our presser foot. So it's suggesting that we change to our satin stitch foot. So to change our foot,
Wait, you haven't seen the best part yet. Here are some amazing offers and specials available for one time only. You can't afford to miss it.